name of that song is Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. The notes are, you're not the one for me. Would some of you like to sing that song to some of the people in your company? Would you like to know how to engage your people? There are three kinds of employees: those that will work, those that won't work, and those that just won't quit. I know you're all looking at me, you're thinking, what can this woman teach me? She looks like the long-lost love child of Steven Seagal and Demi Moore. Give it a minute, it'll soak in. Many of you are sitting there right now with this glaze. You have this glaze, this surely there will be some chicken in a minute. I'm here, you know, it's like when you go to the airlines and nobody's like watching. The flight attendant is giving dreadfully information, life-saving tips that you need to do. And everybody's like, I've been there, done that, I've seen that. Absolutely. One thing I love, though, is when you're going to connect with your people and you want to engage them, you want to make sure they are with you before you engage. Like the flight attendant that knew we were ignoring her. We are all looking at our newspapers and magazines because the door's already closed. We can't look at the phone now, okay? So you're right, Anthony. And so I noticed she tried to get our attention. She said, y'all might as well sit down and shut up because if we go down, you're going to be looking for me. I saw about 123 people kind of look up around the paper, and she goes, there might be 50 ways to leave your lovers, but there's only 6 ways to get off this bird if we go down. At this point, everybody's looking. So she's looking over at this row of people, and she said, y'all might notice that if we have a problem, the oxygen mask is going to drop on down. She said, what you should know is that 4 masks will drop down in the event that we have an emergency. In case you have a lap child, one of you can use that 4th mask. She said, but what you should also know is only 2 of the masks will work. Are you feeling lucky today? She looked at this man, she goes, you just suck it up, Sparky, and you just hopefully that you will get that oxygen. It will flow at 25 cents for the first minute and 10 cents for each additional minute. Pay no attention to this. Y'all are watching this over here. Don't be distracted by this thing over here, this brand new type of microphone. But she looked over at this woman and she said, I see you have 2 young babies with you today. She said, first you must fix your own mask. It's safe. And then you must choose the child that you love the most. And this little boy's looking at his baby sister like, she always liked you better. Do you think he was having a good ride? No. But do you think we listened to her? Yes. For those of you who are trying to engage your people, you have to connect first. So the first thing I'm going to say today is you must connect before you correct. With connection, there could be correction. And the opposite is also true. Now, I'm Greek. I don't know if any of you have seen Big Fat Greek Wedding. You may be confused by the name, though. That last name is Czech, so I'm part Czech and part Greek, so I'm cheek, okay? And the way you know a Greek woman in my family comes to the room is our hips will usually come around the corner about 5 minutes before we do. We love to talk, we love to eat. In fact, I went to this one event, and I ran into this gypsy woman in her entourage, and she came up to me, and she looked me up and down, and she goes, I can see by those hips you are so Greek. But she said, by those hips, I'm going to make a prediction. Your moon is always in the house of pancakes. Thank you, gypsy woman. But what I do know about being Greek is I have a lot of really cool relatives. And my grandfather wasn't a very tall guy. And he used to say you measure a person's height from here up. I love that. I'd like to expand that for a minute and just say from here up, the heart, the mind, and the soul. Because I know lifelong learners do embrace this theory. And I'd like to think I'm surrounded by a lot of very tall people here today. Am I right? Yes, I am. And here's what I do know this, is you can't engage your people unless you figure out how to engage yourself. So my Greek grandfather, very smart, he said, Calliope, there's only 2 ways to motivate people. You got to know what makes them tick and what ticks them off. True? So I ask you, what makes you tick, right? What do you like? What do you love about your job? What do you love about your job? You have to embrace this. You have to get your own oxygen or you're not motivating anybody. You got to know what makes you tick and what ticks you off. So when I say what makes you tick, I mean, what do you love about your job? And do you know what I hear all the time? The people, the challenge, the variety, the paycheck. And then I say, what frustrates you about your job? And you know what I hear? The people, the challenge, the variety, the paycheck. So when I ask you, what do you love about your job? Same things? Yeah. And then I say, what frustrates you? Please try not to yell out the actual names of the people that make you mad. But it's true. And if we can learn to live with the peaks of the job, the valleys of the job also will become more important to us because we need to learn to live with the stuff on the job that's not easy. For instance, what do I love about my job? When people ask me what I do, besides saying I'm an irritational speaker, because I really am, I say, because I think motivational is a very jaded term. I don't think I can motivate anybody. I think I can inspire someone to motivate him or herself. right? But when they say, what do you do for a living? I say, well, I'm a light bulb distributor. And they say, what does that mean? They usually go, well, oh, right, and they go back to their adult beverage on the plane and go, right, whatever. But what I say is I'm a light bulb distributor, which means that somewhere, somehow, somebody is going to pick up on something, and that aha moment's going to happen, and they're going to actually change the way they respond with people, and it actually is going to change what they do on the job and or in their personal lives. That's cool. And so what I don't like so much now, the thing that makes me crazy, is the travel. Most of you have traveled. You know it's crazy. So what we have to learn to do is to completely embrace the thing we love the most. And if you're smart, you're going to tell a friend of yours, this is what I love about my job. And you're going to keep going back to that when the tough moments happen. For instance, when I'm traveling and it's a long delayed flight, the captain we may be on the runway, and he might say, you can open up your phones right now and see your messages. And I have messages from people telling me what they tried, what they tried, what they tried. So all the light bulbs are going off while I'm stuck on the tarmac. That's a cool thing. You have to get your people to understand what they love, and they have to always keep remembering that when they're having a not-so-love kind of day. You have to keep bringing them back to that if you're smart. If they say they love a challenge, it's great. You can say, hey, you know how you said you love a challenge? Well, I got a hot one for you on line 1. Woo! You got to keep bringing them back to that. So here's what I decided to do. If traveling is a kind of an issue and it's tough for me, then I'm going to make it fun. So I decided that when I fly now, I'm going to make sure that I help other people who've never flown before. And you know who they are. They're always the ones that are looking for the nearest exit, you know. So I am in the aisle of the plane, and they're doing the emergency exit announcement, and I do not interrupt because I know this woman is really watching for the very first time. She's looking around. And after she's finished, I looked to her and I said, have you not flown before? And she said, no, and I'm terrified. I said, let me tell you something. We are safer flying in the air than we are driving in a car on the ground. Statistics will show that. She said, wow, thanks for saying that. And you could just see her relax. And I turned to her and I said, now you do know your part on takeoff, don't you? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, with the fuel prices, what they are these days, the passengers have to help with the lift of the aircraft on takeoff. She said, really? How does that work? My sister didn't say anything about this. I said, it's real simple. We start rolling down the runway, and we just need to flap just a little like this. She goes, really? I said, and then we have to add a draft, so we need to blow just a little to get it going. Shh, shh. She said, really? Okay, now, you know how when you talk on the plane, your voice kind of carries forward and some of the people can hear you in front of you? So when she looked out the window, because she's really looking now out the window, okay? These two guys turned around to me. One of them winked at me, and he goes, we heard you. We're going to do it with you. To my left, two guys turn around and they go, we're in. So I'm thinking, wow, I got a crew of 6. This could work. We're on the second row in the back of the plane. So we start rolling down the runway, and I check my crew. Check, 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 check. Let's flap. And she goes, check. And we start flapping, and she's got her eyes closed. Shh, shh, shh. And we take off, and the whole plane's going nuts because they can see us. And she's like, oh, I did so good on my first takeoff. And it was all we could do to let her go off alone to take her connection. I don't know, but I'm just thinking she's on the plane going, come on, everybody, I can't do this alone. We're going to die. Okay, I'm not that mean, but as the celebration died down, I said, I got to tell you, we don't really do that on the takeoff. And she looked at me and she goes, you know something, I'm not mad. Because I was so focused on being a good flapper that I forgot we left the earth. And I thought, if you can get to the point in your life and your job, when you flap so hard, you forgot you left the earth, you are engaged. You see, right now what we're looking at is about 21% of actively disengaged people in the workforce. That's tough. It's like people walking around like zombies, just doing just enough to get the check. That's not good, is it? And one of these HR directors, I said, how many people work here? And she looked around, she goes, about half. She goes, the only problem is we don't know which half. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so the number one thing that I suggested already is to make sure you find out what makes them tick and find out what ticks them off. In fact, I make a chart. It's called a team chart. And I ask you, what do you love about your job? What do you not love about your job? Because if you hate reports, but you go to the wall to get the report done, hello, that's one of the first things I'm going to do as a random deposit. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to go, hey, I know you hate reports, but because you still hate them, you went to the wall to get it in on time and you double-checked it for accuracy. That means so much here. So we have to make sure that we do that. The second thing we want to do is tell people exactly what we expect of them. We seem to have this psychic connection, hopeful, that people are going to know what their jobs are. Well, you need to say exactly what it is we need from them. And the talk goes like this. I expect you to own your job. Here's what it looks like. I expect you to know the skills that you have for the job you've taken match the skills that you have on a daily and regular basis. We have consistent standards. I expect you to know what they are. I expect you to know if there's a gap in the standards. I expect you to be able to close those gaps. This is the job you've taken. I expect you to know how to close them before I even come and talk with you about it with a couple of ideas on how you might close them. I expect you to feel okay to come to me if you're not crystal clear about anything that you need to do while you're working here. I expect you to be a problem solver, not a problem finder. We had a lot of problem solvers, and they were really good. They were so good, we promoted them to other companies. So our mission is to make sure that they know with that clarity. We also want to talk with people, not at people. So now we're already at number 3. Talk with people, not at people. Talking at me sounds like this. I need you here at 9. What part of 9 don't you understand? It kind of sounds like I need you to clean your room. Does that sound familiar to some of you? In fact, there are a lot of things that we can say. Some of your jobs, some of you think you have a title that may involve adult daycare center supervisor or something along those lines. Our mission is to make sure that we talk adult to people. We say things like this. What's your understanding of the on-time policy? Or the blank policy, whatever policy you need. But when you start talking at them, it sounds like all those things my parents used to say when I was young. So many things, I had to write them down on a card. Don't talk with your mouth full, straighten up and fly right, shape up or ship out. Don't make me pull this car over. I hit a few nerves on that one. I'll give you something to cry about. Just you wait till your father gets home. Ouch. Here's my favorite, though. I'm going to count to 3. Did I hear 10? Did I hear 10? Oh, what a cushy childhood you must have had. Now count with me the way your parents counted. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 2.5. Yes, 2.5. 2.5. You know, this is the only way that most of us learn fractions. 2 4/5, 2 5/6. Come on. 2.5 is the reason why a lot of us are not getting what we need to get from our people, because great leaders always get to 3. They make sure that people know what 3 means. How many of you have negative people in your area? Negative people. Are you sitting next to one? Just kind of wink at me. All right, that sounds like a, yeah, that's not good. So here's what I'm going to say. I have a couple of anti-negativity devices, a couple things that you can use. If somebody says something negative, you just pull one of these out. They're very handy. It's very subtle. You take it out. You go, excuse me, before I answer you, something just got all over me. Would you like that? She's like, no, don't throw it at me, please. All right, I'm going to throw it. You ready? Here we go. Good. Insurance works. Some of you may need a little bit bigger thing, and it looks like this. But for some of you, I hate to say this, but in fact, you don't want to get too close to these people. So you might have to do a little bit of the on-guard stuff. Also, here's what I'm going to say to you, though, in all honesty. The only way you're going to not have negativity in the workplace if you have no tolerance for negativity. Literally. Make sure they know what negative looks like and what negative sounds like. In fact, let them tell you. Let them say to you, this is negative. What's a perfect negative example of nonverbal? Eye roll. Everybody give me an eye roll. Well, maybe a good way to bring that out is to say, now you have to take it back. Roll it the other way. It's an idea. Why? Because it calls it out. And some of the groups I work with literally have a no gossip policy. So what I'm going to recommend for all of you is to make sure that you have some tools that people could do. For instance, for some of you who have people who are like really, really negative, they need a little bit of mental floss. So this is called plackers, and I call this plackers for the slackers. And what we need to do is make sure we change the way that they're thinking. How many of you in this room have an issue with possibly saying a little bit too much? You think, oh gosh, I thought I was using my inside voice. And it was not. And it was not. For you, I have duct tape. All right, and then for some of you, I have a little extra special. Some people call these pacifiers, but I call them job security. All right, we'll have that here. Well, also what I'm thinking is, some of you in this room want to make sure that you acknowledge people so that they can truly have their talents flourish. And one of the ways we need to do that is to make sure that we treat them as individuals, all right, and make sure that we do that. Now, not everybody's having fun when they work. So what I decided to do is when I'm traveling, you know, if you travel, you've got to be really, those people that you travel with, you have to know that some of them, the people that work at the airlines are having a tough day sometimes because a lot of people are taking it out on them. And if they like you, they can call down to the gate and say, she's running, hold the door. If they don't like you, they can say, she's running, slam the door. Slam it hard, but make sure she sees you before you slam it. And I remember this man was yelling at this ticket person at the door, and it looked really sad, because he was just so mean. And then he walks off, and she turned to her friend, and she goes, wait till he sees where his bag is going. Did she own her job or what, okay? So I walk up to her, and I thought, I just want to make her day because she's had such a rough time with him. So I hand her my ID, and on my ID, I have this little red dot, looks like a clown nose, and I put it on my nose. And I hand her the ID, and while she's looking down at the red dot on the nose, I'm slipping on a real clown nose. So she looks down at the ID, and she looks up at me and sees the same picture. And she looks back down, and she looks back up, and she says, what are you trying to do to me? And I said, I was just trying to make your day because he was so mean to you. And she said, that's so cool. I'm putting you in first class. Now, I don't say that to say go get upgraded, although it's good advantage mileage, which is great. But I think all of us sometimes need to be reminded that the people we work with also need to be looked at as something they like or something they don't like, and we need to start bringing that right back to the beginning. Bring it back to them so that when they can be inspired by watching your model. So I have for everybody, when you do leave from here for lunch, there will be some red noses when you leave from here. So you can wear them or you can put them on the end of your pin so you can be reminded to stay less stressed when you're around the crazy people. All right? So I'm hoping that you will remember next time you're in a big